Coffee Break German, Season 3, Episode 11. Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu Coffee Break German. Ich bin Marc.
Und ich bin Andrea.
Wie geht's dir, Andrea?
Mir geht es sehr gut. Und dir, Marc?
Mir geht's auch gut, danke. Today we are continuing on with our journey in Coffee Break German Season 3. Now, Andrea, what have you got in store for us today?
Today we have more genitive for you and the listeners. And I look very much forward to it.
Excellent. Well, we are going to be looking at the genitive again. And of course, as ever, we'll have some authentic German to do some practicing of this language point. And I think you'll enjoy today's language practice. Shall we get started? Bist du bereit?
Ich bin bereit.
Los geht's. Okay, Andrea, why is it we're talking about this genitive, this mysterious genitive again?
Well, yeah, I was expecting this question, Mark, because until now we've been avoiding the genitive a bit, and now we talk a lot about it. And I think what is interesting to note is that the genitive is avoidable, but it gives the speaker the edge. If you can recognize and maybe use the genitive, it really makes you quite a proficient user of German.
Okay, I guess in some ways it's a little like the struggles that we have with the subjunctive in other languages, in French or Italian, where we can probably get away with it in some cases and avoid it. But it definitely makes us sound more proficient and more fluent when we can use that particular grammar point.
That's correct. I learned Italian, and being able to use the congiuntivo, or mostly being able to use the congiuntivo impresses Italian native speakers a lot.
Excellent. Well, let's see if we can aim to do this with the genitive. And today we're particularly focusing on the genitive with particular prepositions.
That's correct. So we know that it is prepositions and verbs that determine whether a case is used. And today we want to look at a few prepositions. And I think our listeners and yourself, Mark, you will recognize some of these prepositions.
Okay, sounds good. Let's take it away then.
So let's look at the first preposition that I have, and it is wegen. Do you recognize wegen?
So I think wegen is sort of because of, as a result of.
That's correct, because of. So I have an example for you. Wegen des schlechten Wetters gehen wir nicht in den Park.
Right, so wegen des schlechten Wetters. Right, so Wetters, we can hear the S on the end of that, so that is our genitive ending. And we've also got des Wetters. And it's not just any Wetters, but it's bad weather. It's as a result or because of the bad weather, gehen wir nicht in den Park. We're not going to the park.
Genau, das ist richtig, ja. And then I'll just give you, there are many of these prepositions, but I'll give you a few here. One that is interesting would be in Folge. And do you think you can work out what in Folge means?
Is it something like following as a result of, again, that kind of idea?
Yes. So it's a similar idea. And I have, in fact, a similar example.
Mm-hmm.
Infolge des Unwetters ist die Brücke geschlossen.
Right. I've never heard of Unwetters before, but I'm guessing it's bad weather or poor weather conditions.
Yeah, so an Unwetter is actually something like a storm. It's heavy weather.
Okay. So following or because of the bad weather, the storm, the bridge is closed.
Yes. That's correct. So following the storm would be, so as a consequence of.
Okay, yeah. So you're not just arriving at the bridge when the storm is happening, you're arriving at the bridge after the storm has happened, and because of the damage, the bridge is now closed.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. Another word we can look at is gemäß, and gemäß is something we find in official language.
Mm-hmm.
also when you deal, for example, with a train company or, important stuff that involves everybody.
Okay.
And then we use gemäß, yeah? And gemäß is something like according to.
Okay, right. Can we hear an example of gemäß then?
Yes. Gemäß des Fahrplans sollte der Zug bald kommen.
Right. So according to the timetable, the train should come soon.
Genau, das ist richtig.
So when you say that that's a kind of official thing, if you were standing there with your husband and you were looking at the timetable, could you say gemäß des Fahrplans sollte der Zug bald kommen to your husband?
Yes, I would, but I would not say gemäß if I told him about something my friend said. I wouldn't say gemäß Peter, da. I would say Peter hat gesagt.
Okay, so the gemäß part really is referring to the official documentation or something like that.
Genau, official documentation, or maybe if the government has said something, or
I get it.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Good, and then we have one that I find lovely, and that is Dank.
Dank. Okay, is that like thanks to?
Yeah, genau, thanks to. So we use Dank, and important is that this is with a lowercase d because it's a preposition.
Uh-huh, okay.
And I have an example. Dank Katrins Hilfe hat Pia noch den Zug erwischt.
Okay, so dank Katrins Hilfe, so thanks to Katrins help, hat Pia noch den Zug erwischt. I'm not sure about erwischt.
She caught it.
She caught it. Oh, I was actually wondering if she'd missed it, but that wouldn't make sense in the context. So thanks to Katrin's help, Pia managed to catch the train.
Genau, das ist richtig.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next one is also quite useful, and it is anstelle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in the place of.
Yep, okay.
And I have an example for you that would probably make it clearer. Anstelle eines Autos hat sich Konrad ein Fahrrad gekauft.
Right, so instead of a car, Konrad bought a bike.
Genau, das ist richtig. Yeah.
Okay.
Then we have another one which is quite useful, and it is seitens. And we can see the word Seite is in there, so the side, the part. And I think we can translate it as on the part of.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example. Seitens der Universität gibt es keine Einwände.
Right, so seitens der Universität, so on the part of the university, gibt es keine Einwände? Help me with Einwände?
Objections?
Oh, right. Okay, so the university doesn't have any objections, even if you do, that kind of idea.
Yes.
Right, okay, that makes sense. So, seitens der Universität. Yeah, I think I'm listening to all these prepositions. I think one of the nice things is that they all sort of fit into the same box. You know, thanks to, instead of, because of, and obviously in English we use different prepositions, thanks to, but because of, and so on. But here, the nice thing is that they kind of, I feel they all fit into the same category of expressions. Would that be right?
Yes, I think you're correct. There is another group of prepositions that uses the genitive, which listeners will probably be a bit more familiar with, and it is prepositions of place. So they all sound broadly similar, yeah.
Right.
So we have oberhalb, which is above,
right,
and unterhalb, which is below,
mm-hmm.
innerhalb, which is inside, and außerhalb, which is outside.
Okay, so these are a nice group. So oberhalb, unterhalb, innerhalb, and außerhalb, you said?
Yes, that's correct. So I'm going to give you an example with oberhalb.
Okay.
Die Familie Koller wohnt oberhalb der Waldgrenze.
So this is the above one you said. So die Familie Koller wohnt oberhalb der Waldgrenze. So they live above the border of the forest?
Ja, the tree line.
Ah, right. That's a new word for me. Right. So the tree, der Waldgrenze. So literally the border of the forest. But yeah, I like that. So die Familie Koller wohnt oberhalb der Waldgrenze. Interesting.
Genau, sehr gut. And then I would like to bring up one more preposition which we have come across a lot in Coffee Break.
Mm-hmm.
And it is entlang.
Ah, yes, we have certainly heard that. I think we've heard that lots in the travel diaries where Karin and family went along or along the side of the lake and all that kind of thing.
Genau, so entlang des wilden Flusses wachsen schöne Blumen.
So along the wild river grow beautiful flowers.
Yes, that's correct. Now we need to say that entlang can also go with the dative.
Oh dear.
So if
okay.
anyone is now confused and says, "Oh, but in travel diary this was completely different," so we can use both. We can use entlang with the dative and we can use it with the genitive.
And does the meaning change?
No.
Okay. That was the correct answer, Andrea. Thank you. I'm pleased with that. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then after the break, we've got something a little bit different for you. I'm looking forward to this.
In addition to the podcast version of Coffee Break German Season 3, we're also putting together a full course on the Coffee Break Academy, where you'll be able to access bonus materials to help you make even better progress with your German.
That's right. Not only will you be able to enjoy an ad-free audio version of each lesson, we'll also provide a bonus episode where Andrea will be testing us with some translation challenges based on the topic of each lesson. And of course, there are comprehensive notes and a video version of each lesson too. Visit coffeebreakgerman.com and follow the links for Season 3 there. Welcome back. Today we are looking at prepositions that take the genitive and indeed what happens with the genitive for each of these prepositions. We've had two groups. We had the over, under, through, along and all that group, which was a nice physical group in a sense where places are. And then we had that other group, which was thanks to, because of, according to, and instead of, these kind of words.
Yes, and now we're going to look at some of these expressions in our text, which is Coffee Break News or Radiolingua News.
Okay, let's have a listen.
Herzlich willkommen zur heutigen Ausgabe von Radiolingua News. Es ist 18 Uhr. Andrang auf schottische Sprachschulen. Aufgrund des großartigen Wetters wollen immer mehr Leute nach Schottland in den Englischkurs. Laut einer Umfrage von Radiolingua genießen Sprachlernende besonders das angenehme Klima Schottlands sowie die Freundlichkeit seitens der Bevölkerung. Podcast-Guru Mark P. will Musikkarriere starten. Laut Aussagen des Mark P. Fanclubs soll der weltbekannte Sprachenlerner und Podcast-Experte Mark P. eine neue Karriere als Pianist anstreben. Dieses Gerücht wurde zwar seitens seines Managements nicht bestätigt, aber gemäß der Behauptungen von Mark P.'s Nachbarn ist täglich mehrstündiges Geklimper zu hören. Infolgedessen ist ein baldiger Karrierewechsel sehr wahrscheinlich. Schweizerin lanciert Petition für Fondue-Stationen. Mit Hilfe hunderter Fondue-Enthusiasten hat eine hier wohnhafte Schweizerin eine Petition eingereicht, anhand welcher die Interessengruppe Fondue für alle erreichen will, dass entlang der Küste und innerhalb örtlicher Parks allgemein zugängliche Fondue-Stationen angelegt werden. Die Stadtregierung wollte sich bezüglich des Erfolgs der Unterschriftensammlung nicht äußern, aber es scheint klar, dass infolge der Petition auch Forderungen nach Raclette-Zentren zugenommen haben. Neuer Podcast für Katzensprache. Anlässlich des Internationalen Tages der Tierlinguistik wurde bekannt gegeben, dass Lernende bald die Möglichkeit haben werden, mit Hilfe des Podcasts Miauen wie ein Stubentiger mit ihren felinen Freunden noch besser zu kommunizieren als bisher. Gemäß Experten soll besonders die Aussprache eine Herausforderung darstellen. Aufgrund dessen werden Zuhörer und Zuhörerinnen zu Ausspracheseminaren mit Experte Leo Schnorr eingeladen. Und nun zum Wetter.
Well, that was very interesting, Andrea. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, very interesting news.
Yes, one article in particular, I'm very surprised to hear. Obviously, the sources have been leaked on my piano practicing.
That is true. I think the news crew spoke to your neighbors about this.
It sounds like it. Okay, let's do a quick summary of these 4 articles, and then we will go on. Well, we'll be talking about it more in our bonus episode, obviously, but let's find out what they were about first of all.
Yes, so the first news item was about the fact that more and more English language learners want to come to Scotland to study because of the good weather. And according to a survey from Radiolingua, people come because of the nice climate and the loveliness from people.
Of course. Well, that's clear, but I'm not quite so sure about the nice climate. But nonetheless. Yeah.
And the second news item is about podcast guru Mark P. And he is rumored to start a career as a pianist. His management hasn't confirmed latest rumors yet, but Mark P's neighbors reportedly heard a lot of piano noise coming from his house.
I'm sure they wouldn't hear piano noise. I'm sure they would hear beautiful music.
Well, the word that is used is geklimper.
Uh-huh.
And geklimper is piano noise.
Right, okay. And then there was a news story about a Swiss lady. Is this a particular Swiss lady that we know, Andrea?
I don't know her, so but I commend her efforts because she starts a petition for public fondue stations in parks and coastal regions. And the city authorities have not commented yet, but it is clear that because of the petition, demands for raclette stations have been voiced too. I think this is all very sensible, to be honest.
I wouldn't like to comment, okay, because I'm sure there should be other kind of stations too if we're talking. Well, it depends where they are, I suppose. Okay, and then there was one final news story.
Yes, this is language related, and we're talking about cat language. And there will be a new podcast to learn cat language to celebrate the Day of Animal Linguistics.
Who knew there was such a thing?
The name of the podcast will be, so the translation will be Meow like a living room tiger. So ein Stubentiger. Ein Stubentiger is a word for a cat, and it means living room tiger.
Yeah.
And Leo schnurr. Schnurren, we have to maybe point out, is the sound that cats make. It goes brrr.
So they purr.
Ja, das ist schnurren. Yeah. Leo Schnurr, which presumably is a professor of this subject, will join us for pronunciation workshops, as the pronunciation is said to be particularly challenging when learning cat language.
Well, I will take your word for it, Andrea. I am not a cat owner, so I don't know this, but I would imagine it probably would be pretty difficult. Of course, in there were lots of genitives and lots of prepositions that we've seen in our main section of the lesson, and we'll be going through these in greater detail in our bonus episode. So that is almost all for today, except that there's time for one more thing.
That's correct. So we have noch eine Kleinigkeit. So today's Kleinigkeit is die Katze im Sack kaufen. And that means to buy something you have not seen yet, you don't know what it exactly is.
Okay, die Katze im Sack kaufen. So the cat in the bag to buy. When you buy the cat that's in the bag, you've not seen the cats, but you buy it anyway.
Genau, das ist richtig.
So you just trust that it's something that you'll like, basically.
Well, we look at it as quite a negative thing. So it's so I don't want to buy die Katze im Sack.
Right.
Okay, so for example, you're going to view a house that you're interested in because you wouldn't want to buy the Katze im Sack. So you buy the house and you want to see all the reports and da-di-da-di-da before you commit to a purchase.
I understand. Okay, well, that is a useful expression that we'll come back to, no doubt, at another point. Okay, as I said, we're going to be going through our full news reports in the bonus episode, and there is also a translation challenge which you can look forward to if you're already using our full version of the Coffee Break German Season 3 course. If not, then you can find that at coffeebreakgerman.com.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and we look forward to another one.
Okay, bis zum nächsten Mal.
Bis bald.
You have been listening to a Coffee Break Languages production for the Radio Lingua Network. Copyright 2022 Radio Lingua Limited. Recording copyright 2022 Radio Lingua Limited. All rights reserved.